I was expecting sex, drugs and rock and roll. Instead, I got cops, rabbis and missing money. But the beloved Australian and Kiwi band, Crowded House, has always been a little bit different. Seems like only yesterday they first sang their way into our heads and hearts, but in fact it was 30 years ago. So to celebrate the milestone, Neil Finn and Nick Seymour took me on a nostalgic journey back to where it all started. Today, in a studio on Hollywood's Sunset Strip, there's a distinctly down-under sound.
There is freedom within, there is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge.
I'm being treated to a private concert by Neil Finn and Nick Seymour, performing their Crowded House favourite.
And now, don't dream it's sober. Hey now, when the world comes.
It's been 30 years since the group recorded their first album here in Los Angeles, a Hollywood dream that actually came true.
Nick had never been here before, so I made sure I picked him up in a limo from the airport that he could stick his head out.
My fondest memories is coming in from the airport, sticking my head pretty much all the way out the sunroof, because it was the first time, in the States, in Southern California, and I was going to make a record.
Yeah, he was just saying, he was sticking his head out, he was going, I love this town!
But it got even better. Back in 1986, they came to work here at LA's historic Sunset Sound Studios. This is where the Rolling Stones and the Doors used to hang out. When you walked in with those great songs to perform, did the studio say to you, yes, welcome, this is going to be great? Was it in your head that this would work and be the incredible success that it was?
You have excitement, moments of great excitement when things are working, and then there's days where you can feel the hours ticking away and you're not making progress. So the answer is a bit of both, really.
Crowded House formed after New Zealand group Split Enz broke up. Remaining members, Neil Finn and Paul Hester, joined forces before Nick Seymour came on board.
We said, well, let's form a three-piece band so we can all fit in one car and, keep it really simple. Yeah, really pragmatic.
The band was originally known by Neil's middle name, the Mullanes, but Capitol Records didn't like that, forcing the trio to come up with something else. Which brings us to this street in the Hollywood Hills. So this is it? There was a Crowded House and this is it?
That's the entrance to the Crowded House.
How crowded was Crowded House?
Well, that's a two-bedroom townhouse. There were 3 members of the band and then my girlfriend at the time.
Like huge party zone.
It became this DOS house for Aussies who were trying to get deals in LA.
Our manager of the time, who didn't last long, was sleeping on the couch. And yeah, it was a lot of people through the place. It did seem rather appropriate for our name.
This home movie was filmed inside that Crowded House. And even with no sound, you get the idea that this was a place of music, mirth, and most of all, mischief. Now, it still rankles with you after all these years that you didn't get the bond back from the landlord here.
I know,
It was how much again?
it was $1,800.
That's
so
a fair
it was
bit
the
back
first month's rent and last month's rent, I guess. And she kept it because of soap deposits on the shower screen, which I think is pretty feeble.
We can go up and ask for the money back.
Well, just be aware that the owner at the time kept a couple of very fierce Doberman pinschers.
She did, yeah.
They may not be around anymore, but she may have replaced them. So just a little word of warning.
Who's going to knock on the door?
Nick. A little word of warning, Nick.
What, because you've already knocked on and so
It was
it's my
your
turn.
responsibility to get the bond back in the first place.
I've done this before. It says beware of the dog.
Good, no one home.
I'd be terrified.
Such courage. With the famously crowded house clearly deserted today, our journey down memory lane takes us to a Japanese restaurant. Great building. Where, oddly enough, things really took off for the band.
It was kind of our moment where things turned around, strangely in a Japanese restaurant on the top of a hill.
I'm wondering now why. I mean, no allusion to the fish pond, but why did you choose this place to make your first big splash?
But the record wasn't really performing. It was, there was a good vibe, but it was really just bubbling away underneath. We decided on a chain of shows that would be in restaurants in each city in America, or major cities. We thought at least if all else failed, we'd eat well.
Home movies from that night document their life-changing performance in front of music press and professionals.
5 key execs came back to the Roosevelt, the hotel afterwards, and we all got in the jacuzzi. And I think deals were made.
I think there was a lot of commitment made that night, actually, yeah.
Is that how deals are done in this town?
It was in those days, yeah.
Possibly still is.
I'll remember that.
For the first time in my
But along the road to Hollywood riches, there were some potholes.
life, I tell you.
Unexpectedly, the band was caught up in an FBI investigation.
The head of our record company promotional department was filmed by the FBI shortly before our album came out, passing in a suitcase full of money to a radio programmer, and therefore our entire promotional program was
Put on hold.
put on hold. But then, as it turned out, it was a very fortunate window for us, because suddenly those guys were working for next to nothing because they'd been fingered by the FBI. I'm telling you quite a lot of information about what went down, but this was a golden age back then.
Late
like I said,
80s.
Were you shocked because you were young and innocent?
We didn't know a lot about it until after the fact, because we were sheltered from those kind of realities.
I don't know where you go.
But by 1987, their hard work had finally paid off. Their first album reached number 12 in America, and they achieved 2 top 10 hits. Crowded House had arrived. It was almost too easy.
You loved the place, though. You really,
I did,
you
yeah.
took to it, and it took to you, and you were out in like warehouse parties at 2 in the morning. I mean, Paul and I were a little more stay-at-home about the whole thing. Once we got a nice bag of pot from the rabbi, that was us for the next week, really.
I really thought that we had one shot. That was and I really wanted to actually just take as much in as I could in that one chance that we had. And I was amazed when someone said, radio's actually playing Don't Dream It's Over. We'd tried 2 singles prior to that and there was nothing,
But in 2005, a tragic, unexpected chapter marred the Crowded House success story.
We're in Holland. We just been to the fair. We sang 2 songs. We sang 2
Original drummer Paul Hester, a man known for his humour and gregarious personality, committed suicide. Is he sadly missed still?
Oh, yeah, incredibly missed, and hardly a day goes by. I know that's a kind of a cliche to say, but yeah. Paulie was an extraordinary human being, and obviously, there was a distance there that nobody could bridge, which is a very sad thing.
And when that happens, we always wonder, we knew him, how did we not know it was that bad?
The question of how did he get to that point, I ask myself continually.
Today, more than 10 years after his death, as we retrace the history of Crowded House, memories of Paul Hester are still vivid and valued. Perhaps the greatest memory is this.
Love can't make you weep.
In 1996, when the band said goodbye at the Sydney Opera House.
Bring life to frozen ground.
In front of a record-breaking 200,000 people, Crowded House's farewell to the world brought Neil, Nick and Paul together for one last time.
Something so strong to carry us today.
Now, when you have that mob, adoring mob, of intelligent, well-behaved people who come to see you, do you think maybe we shouldn't go? Maybe we should stay?
We had different feelings about it anyway. Nick was less. Nick was reluctant to let the thing go at the time. I felt the need and acted on it. But we didn't all come from the same place. Paul Hester was delighted to be. Had left the band and he was delighted to come back and get a chance to do a farewell. And everyone probably had their own way of being there on the day, but one thing we were definitely united on is that we wanted it to be a great performance, you know.
It's been 20 years since that concert, and this is now the first time Nick and Neil have performed together in 5 years.
Hey now, when the war comes in.
Come November, I won't be the only one enjoying the music. Crowded House will return to the Opera House to mark 30 years since they began, and to celebrate their induction into the ARIA Hall of Fame. That will be 20 years to the day, virtually,
It is,
since
yeah.
the farewell. What's that old Australian expression, more comebacks than Melba?
It's an encore. It's Nick termed the phrase for this show. It's an encore performance, yeah. We enjoy playing together. We don't do it that much at the moment. We're sort of like the cars up on blocks. But Nick will be poised over it with an oil can, and just to take the metaphor even further,
I'm wondering where it can go.
painting a few bits of the Duco that have kind of weathered a little bit.
But one thing they are not is rusty.
Hey now.
Nor would it seem ready to retire. They've provided the soundtrack for a generation. And listening to them, I got the sense that although time had moved on, they were as good as ever.
We know they won't.
And that into the future, we would always make room for Crowded House.
No, they won't win.
Another unforgettable Crowded House memory, eh? Thank you.